What is happening, people? Welcome to another video. This is an interesting one because this is a video that I wasn't planning on making. And usually what we have planned with Gabe is to release a YouTube video, a documentary about my new world record. But we're not doing that. Instead, we're releasing this video because I fucked up and I failed. And now it's time to take accountability and to pick up the pieces. So I spent the last 2 weeks basically locked up in my house. So I've been doing mandatory things like taking my kids to school, going out and doing bits and bobs where I can. I'm still wearing this fucking moon boot right here because I'm injured. The doctor said when I went to the hospital that I had severe nerve damage and tissue damage. So my recovery is gonna take around 4 to 6 weeks. And there's been a lot of lessons that we've learned over that 4 days. It should have been 7 days, but we had to cut it short, unfortunately. What people are saying to me is, first of all, the support has been absolutely unbelievable. Over the past 2 weeks, people have either been showing up at my house, calling me, sending messages to me every day without fail. Ev, are you okay? Ev, do you need anything? This, that, just every single day. So what's happened is through this period, I've realized how many great people are in my life and how many amazing people are around me. That's one positive thing that's come out of this. It's in times of need that you really find out who your true friends are and who your true circle is. I've been shown that over this past couple of weeks and it's just been absolutely overwhelming, and I've got nothing but gratitude to everyone who showed up, not only during the attempt, but through this recovery period as well. So if you're watching this and you were part of this, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Really, thank you for everything that you've done. I will pay it back. Anything that you need, anytime, you know where to find me. What I want to talk about today is something called ownership and accountability. Okay, you could look at it like it wasn't my fault and stuff happens. At the end of the day, I am the one controlling every single aspect of this attempt. And I fucked up. What we're gonna get into, what happened in the attempt and what I did wrong, was I was waiting for my ankle to hurt. I was waiting for my knee to hurt. I was waiting for the issues to happen and then trying to deal with it. What I could have done better was make sure that we had recovery protocols in place. And we did have some. We had ice baths, we had sauna, stretching, Louis lent me his recovery boots. We were doing all that stuff, but I think I could have done a lot more physio, and I think I could have done a lot more recovery and stretching as well. So although the injury, you could say technically wasn't my fault, I could have controlled all those things. I could have prevented this from happening. I didn't. I'm ready to take full accountability for that and full ownership for that. And what I'm gonna do is as well get into what I like to do after every event, whether it was successful or not successful. What I do is immediately after, so I sit down and I write on one side things that went right and the things that I would do better next time, or the things that I did wrong. And you need to do those straight after so that you can evaluate and come back stronger next time. And that's what I've been doing over the past couple of weeks. And those are the points that I'm gonna be sharing with you guys today. Let's get into what happened over those 4 days and the lessons that we can take from that moving forward. Day one, we started off great. The spirits were high, everyone was happy. That's how everything starts off in life. You know, you start a new business, you start a new job, you're fucking ready to go. Like, you're motivated, you know, everyone's happy, it's all good. So it all went as expected. Everyone turned up, everyone was in good spirits. It was just about preparing for the suffering that was ahead. Started off 12 p.m. on the Monday, the 21st, and going according to plan, running well, running very good, covered a lot of ground on that first day, a lot of people coming in and out. We had Yap, who had done the first 40K with me, done a marathon himself, and then various people coming in and out the day. What I did on the first day was, rather than running for 20 hours, which I was planning to do, I stopped after around 17 hours so that I could sleep at around 12 midnight, and then we can go back on the regular cycle so that I could wake up at 4 and then get my body clock where it needs to be. So that's what we did on the first day. And on the first day, we covered 130 kilometers. Everything was fine, according to plan. We did our recovery protocols at the end and we went on to the second day. Okay, day two, we switched up the nutrition plan a little bit because on day one, I was eating mainly my prison food, which was, it sounds disgusting and it is, but during my training, it was something that was going down well and it had a lot of calories. So it was white rice, olive oil, maple syrup and salt. Now I know that sounds disgusting and it kind of is, but that was giving me my carbs. It was giving me a lot of calories. The olive oil was actually very, very key. And you guys can use this if you're doing an ultra, if you're doing anything long and you need to get calories down, olive oil. Because in 1 tablespoon of olive oil, there's about 100 calories. So I could add to a bowl of rice 300 or 400 calories just by using olive oil. That was going down nice on the first day, but on the second day, we switched it up a little bit and it was kind of pizza. That was the only thing that was really going down in terms of whole foods. And other than that, I was taking my Activate, 2 scoops every hour on the hour, just sipping that throughout the whole time. So day 2, I started to get a little bit fatigued. We still got in, I think 110, 120 kilometers, but my body, I felt, was starting to break down, which is expected. Anything long like this, what tends to happen is your body will start off great, then you'll start to break down. And then comes an interesting point mentally, because you're thinking to yourself, right, it's been 1.5 days. And I'm starting to feel like shit. Still got 7 more days left. So if I feel like this now, what's gonna happen? I'm gonna feel fucking worse. For a lot of people, that's inconceivable. And that's why a lot of people quit these kind of things. But what happens is, there'll be a point where you feel low and you feel like you can't go on and your brain's thinking logically, as I said, but that doesn't happen. We all have that extra gear. We all have that extra place in our minds that we can go. And this is true for a marathon. This is true for a business. This is true for life. When you go through that low period, if you can just grind through that, you're gonna come back stronger than you ever fucking was. And you'll keep going and you'll be bigger and stronger. That's what happened on day 2. I started to feel like shit a little bit. Muscles were sore, glutes were sore, hamstrings were sore, calves a little bit as well. Now day 3 was that interesting day because day 3, I completely broke down. I still got in my kilometers that I needed, but they were a fucking grind. I had to earn every single one. There were no easy miles that day. Food wasn't going down. I started to eat things like Skittles, chocolate, cookies, just anything that was going down because my appetite had gone right the way down. Calories weren't going in. I was just trying to get anything that was high sugar, anything that was going to give me energy. And I was getting through the miles as planned. And then that night was when I hit the lowest point, I think, of the attempt. I knew that I couldn't go to sleep that night until I got the mileage that I needed. I didn't want to fall behind on the mileage. I was moving extremely slow. I think I was like at 6.8 kilometer pace, which was an interesting pace because my body was broken down. I had the knee problems as well that day. 6.8 kilometers per hour was the fastest I could move. It's faster than walking, but it's not running. So it was a kind of in-between weird pace where it was the only thing I could do and I was just like kind of jogging. It's almost like jogging on the spot. That's what it felt like. It was like between jogging and walking. And I did that for about 2 to 3 hours. And that's probably the worst that I'd felt in the whole attempt. But what happened was it was just a switch where I stopped for a while. I went and took a piss, had some food. And then my brother, Aiden, was controlling the playlist and he put on a song which I haven't heard in years and it just fucking sent me off. It was Kiss, Love Gun, and something happened where he put that song on and it was a mixture of the food and something happened in my brain and I just started and we were going off on one. And we put that song on repeat. We made a reel about it as well on the Instagram and I fucking ran for the next hour. Like I was moving after that and we were screaming. We were fired up, man. We were doing crazy stuff. And that's what can happen in an ultra and any event in life. The period from when things are so bad to when you feel great, it can be just a few minutes. Our brains are thinking logically. Sometimes it doesn't work like that. Sometimes something can happen. Something can change and you can be on top of the world very, very soon. I went from feeling the worst I felt to probably, that was almost the best I felt since the beginning because everyone was fired up. We turned it into like a little nightclub or a little rock show. So it was fun, man. Day 4 started off fantastic. What I wanted to do was start a little bit earlier because although we did have that great hour on day 3, because I was moving so slow, I didn't bank the amount of miles or kilometers that I wanted to for that day. So I knew that day 4, I had to get after it. So I was usually starting every day at 6 a.m. On day 4, I started at 5 a.m. and I was hammering from the get-go. And I banked so many kilometers, I was well ahead of pace. I was well ahead of schedule. So just shows you how quickly things can turn around, because I felt like shit in the day 3 to day 4 in the morning. It was easy. I was just clocking them off. Food was going down. I was hydrated. Legs felt great. Everything was according to plan until in the afternoon. I only describe something as an injury if you cannot take another step. Okay, so throughout these whole 4 days, there were knee problems, there were ankle problems, blisters, toenails, all the regular things that you would expect. Day 4 in the afternoon, I started to get a pain in my left shin. My right ankle was hurting, my left ankle was hurting, but my left ankle started to send pains up through my shin. At first, they started off as like an achy pain, almost like a shin splint. It was really, really sore every time I stepped. This is what I signed up for. This is what you do. It hurts, but whatever, you carry on. But then that turned into some sharp shooting pains. What happened there would prove to be the turning point of the whole attempt. I stopped for a little bit, but it wasn't going away, but I just did what I could to keep moving. The physio was coming in and out throughout the day, but I spent a lot of time off of the treadmill just because it was unbearable pain. And what I found out later was that that is what caused the nerve damage and the tissue damage that I'm dealing with now on my shin. Again, coming back to injuries, with these things, you never know, because, you know, you're always trying to push through. You never know what's going to go away and what's going to be more permanent injury, because a lot of things you just kind of repair and you go through, and a lot of the times they go away. I thought that was going to be one of these things. It's just another thing to deal with and we're going to get through it. But unfortunately, that's not what it was. It was something more serious, and we were just trying to put out the fire. We were doing everything that we could to try and get this solved, and it was tough. Look, guys, I'm not that smart. I'm not that talented. My skill set is not that great. Everything that I've got today, any successes that I've had in business, in running, in sports, anything in life, is by grinding. That is the only way I've got anything done. How I do that is when I'm in something, when I'm doing something, I have to focus 100% on that. I can't be thinking about anything else. So during this attempt, all I'm thinking about is, right, how do I get through this day? I'm at 450 kilometers. How am I gonna get the next 10? And then once I've done those, I think about the next 10. I have to be fucking locked in, because if I'm not locked in, it's not gonna happen. And I know that. My mind is not thinking about long-term injuries. During that period, people are getting worried and they're thinking about long-term damages. I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about how we can solve this and how we can get through what we're doing at that particular time. And you might say that that's not the best strategy, going long-term. You might fuck up yourself long-term, but this is all I know. This is how I've got through anything. It's just by focusing in and thinking about how we can get through that particular obstacle that we're facing, because that's how I've got through everything. Look, we can say that this is an injury and I should have stopped and blah, 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 but I've been doing this 3 years, guys. This is the first, like, probably serious injury that I've had. Everything else I've been able to push through. I thought this was gonna be another one of those things that I pushed through, was gonna go away. Unfortunately not. This was something that didn't go away. And bearing in mind that I've run thousands of miles and I've always been able to take another step until that day, until day 4, where I wasn't able to, and I did a lot of damage to my shins. It is what it is. I pushed through for that day. I think we got in another 50 or 60 kilometers. During that time, I'd spent so much time on and off of the treadmill. Like, I would get on, I'd run for a bit. I couldn't walk, I couldn't run. I have to come off, we'll try and do some physio, on and off, and we wasted a lot of time. We were doing painkillers, we were doing injections, oxygen. So what would happen was I would take the painkillers and that would kind of numb everything. And then I would run for like another 30, 40 minutes and then it would wear off. Everything you can think of, we did. So during that time between the injury starting and by the time we finished, a lot of damage was done to the shin. And it was around midnight where I couldn't take another step. So I came off of the treadmill again for the last time. We did more painkillers, nothing was working. And because I'd spent so long off that day, that buffer that I built up just wasted away. It came to a point where I was getting behind. Any flexing of that ankle would just send unbearable nerve pain up my shin. It was a very, very difficult situation to be in. And we all felt the energy just get sucked out of that fucking room. That was the first time where we all felt that this isn't gonna happen. I couldn't walk. I couldn't put any pressure on the foot at this point, but I still tried anyway. You can see the video on my Instagram, and what you saw coming out of me was just pure passion, frustration, disappointment, pain, just everything all at once, because I think we had 4,000 people tune into the live stream. I had people flying in. My brother was there from London, sponsors, Embody, so many people involved in this record attempt, visitors, people that had cancelled their whole weeks, cancelled their plan to be here for this. Dubai Cares was involved as well. It is a hell of a feeling to let down all of those people. That's what I was feeling at that moment. It was a combination of letting everyone down and knowing that I wasn't going to be able to leave it all out there. That was a difficult thing to accept. So when I realized that I couldn't take another step, I fell to the ground. Everyone kind of held me to stop me falling. I laid down on the treadmill, looking up at the ceiling, and that's when all those emotions just kind of came over me. And yeah, that's when I had to accept that it was over and we couldn't move forward. We had to stop. And by that time, everyone kind of knew that, including myself, that we lost too much time and I couldn't even walk at that point. I kind of had another hour or so of just like accepting what was happening, although it was very overwhelming, but obviously there was a lot of people there. I think we had like 8 or 9 people there at that point. Yeah, kind of got everyone together afterwards. We were all sitting down in like the Embody's got this really nice cafe area, so we were sitting down there. Said it for the first time, like, because everyone was thinking it and everyone knew it, but it hadn't been said yet. So I just said, listen guys, obviously, you know, it's not gonna happen today. And yeah, thanks everyone for being there and everything. Very difficult to accept, but these things happen and it's about coming back stronger. So even though I knew we couldn't get the record at that point because we'd lost too much time, it was like I still wanted to move. I still wanted to go because that's my goal in everything that I do. Like whenever I go into something like this, there's 2 goals. The number 1 goal is to finish, to get the result that I want. And the other goal is to empty the tank and to leave it all out there. It was a difficult feeling to accept because for the first time in my life, I felt that I was held back from leaving it all out there. I still have more to give. At that point, don't forget, I'd come back from the dark time in day 3. So in day 4, no glute pain, no calf pain, like my muscles were fresh, I was ready to go. So other than that injury, I felt pretty good. And knowing that I'd left a lot in the tank, that was very difficult to accept. Once we realized it wasn't gonna happen, I said to myself, right, let me get some sleep. And then although we're not gonna get the record, maybe in the morning I can still walk and at least I can finish the 7 days. At least I can leave it all out there. But yeah, woke up, still couldn't walk. I knew it was time to go and see a doctor. So they called the ambulance, still couldn't walk at this point. They carried me to the ambulance and then they took me to the hospital. And then that's where they told me, they did a bunch of stuff. They did x-rays to make sure nothing was broken. I knew nothing was broken, but they wanted to do it anyway. We did that. They checked all my veins and my arteries to make sure there were no like clots. That come back clean. They did diagnose the nerve issue. Yeah, that's what I'm in recovery for now. But then after that, I just went home and I've just been taking it easy. There's been a lot of time to think about what happened. I've got some takeaways as well. It's about picking up the pieces and it's about how we're gonna move forward from this. So usually what I do, and you guys can do this as well, is that whenever something bad or good happens, what I do is a analysis. You just get a plain sheet of paper like this, and on one side, you're gonna write the things that went well, the things that you did right, and on the other side, you can write things that you would do better the next time, or things that you did wrong. So I did do that immediately afterwards while it was still fresh in my mind. That always helps because you're taking what you did right and you're taking what you did wrong, and that prepares you immediately for the next thing. It's not about what happens or it's not about the downfalls, it's about how you come back from those downfalls. So if you evaluate what's happened, that's gonna put you in a much better position to move forward, especially if you did something wrong. And I did a lot of things wrong. There was a lot of things that I could have did better. What are they? First thing was recovery. I should have spent longer recovering. I think I could have spent less time on the treadmill by moving faster and then longer recovery. That's what I probably should have done. The second thing was I didn't prioritize my recovery or my physiotherapy. What I should have done was had a physiotherapist at the end of every day, flushing out my legs, doing a check, making sure that everything was okay and preparing me for the next day. I didn't do that. I waited till the last fucking minute until my knee really, really hurt. And then we called in a physio to fix it. That wasted unnecessary time. That put my legs in a worse position. And if I had a physio there constantly or at the end of every day, that would have put me in a better position to finish strong. It might not have changed the outcome, but I think it would have put me in a better position. Let's put it that way. Things that I did right was preparation in terms of how physically fit and strong I was going into the attempt, because I trained more than I ever have in my life for this attempt. So I trained almost twice as much as I did for the UAE run. I was putting in really, really, really big weeks, practicing my fueling, practicing where I was going to be, like every single thing I was practicing. So in terms of preparation, being physically fit, I think I did everything that I could. So having said all of that, here are some takeaways that I have and things that I'm going to use as lessons for the next one. Another takeaway that I have is that sometimes grit is not enough. As I said to you before, I've got through most things in my life and most successes in my life by grinding it out. Because for a lot of people that are smarter, people that have more experience, it might take them a week to do something and it might take me a month. But I just have to put my head down and grind. That's how I've done a lot of things. Sometimes that's not enough, especially when you're trying to break a world record, because in this circumstance, it wasn't enough just to finish. It wasn't enough just to get the 850 or the 900 kilometers. I had to do it within a certain time frame. When you're doing something that big and something that's never been done before, there's an element of being smart. As I've said before, I didn't act smart in this record attempt. I thought I could grind through everything, which I have done up until now, to be fair. This one, because the goal's a lot bigger, physically it's going to take a better performance. You have to be a bit smarter sometimes. You can't just grit your teeth through some things. That does help. And look, don't get me wrong, guys. This is a great quality to have. You need that grit. You need that determination. That's going to get you very, very far. But when you're at this level and when you're trying to do something so big, you've got to be a little bit smart as well. So that was my downfall. Another thing that I've learned, and I spoke about this in the beginning of the video, was how great some people are. Like, some people are truly phenomenal. And it's in times like this where people show their true colors. And it's times like this when you know who's there for you. And during that 4 days and the time afterwards, the amount of people showing support, showing up, not just messaging, like being there, like showing up, like coming there, supporting, doing what they can, like everything. These are the people at Embody, Lucia, James, Tarek, all the team there. These are the people at the Bike Airs. These are the people at Puma. These are the people that showed up for me. Like, this is Gabe, Stefan, Louis, Chris, Greta, Maria, Anthony, Jihad, everyone. Shout out to Jihad. He was a fucking soldier and he was coming every single night. Everyone that showed up it was just phenomenal. And that was quite overwhelming. And I'm so grateful to those people. Just makes me want to repay that somehow. So, yeah. And I should have repaid it by, number one, doing a record. That was another reason why I was so pissed off, because everyone showed so much support and I felt like, and I still do feel like I let everyone down. Look, we're going to come back and we'll see what happens. Another thing as a takeaway, and this is kind of linked to the point that I just mentioned about people, is the kind of bonds that can be formed in a short period of time when the conditions are so bad. And when I say the conditions are so bad, it's like when you're trying to do something difficult or when you're suffering, the bonds that are formed there are so valuable. Like, I can tell you guys stories of like people that I've met on like 100-mile races, 150-mile races, where you're together and you're both in pain, you're both suffering, you're trying to get through this thing together. I might have spent 4 or 5 hours with those people, but the bond that you form in those hours is tremendous because you're sharing the suffering together. And the bonds that were formed, not just with me and other people, but other people together as well through that attempt, was outstanding. Like, strangers became friends, friends became brothers and sisters, and brothers became even more than that. Like, I was already close with my brother, but the suffering that we shared over those 4 days brought us even closer together. When you're going through hard times with people, that is going to make those bonds extra, extra special and extra, extra solid, deep and meaningful. is something that can't be replaced. It's something that can't be replicated over even 5 years or 10 years. Because it's easy to be someone's friend when everything's great, but to be there when someone is suffering and they need you, that's when it really fucking counts. I fucked up. There was a lot of things I could have done differently. There were a lot of things that I could have done better. Life is about learning and moving forward. And I've learned in the past hardly anything from my successes. I've learned the most in times of failure and those low times. So I've learned a lot over the past 2 weeks of analyzing what I did wrong, and I'm ready to recover and move forward. So if you're going through a hard time right now, if you failed at something, there would have been things that you've done right, and there would have been things that you can do better next time. I know clearly what those are, and I'm ready to move forward. I expect to be off my feet for the next couple of weeks, but I'll be back bigger and stronger than ever.